Hello everyone, I've been scripting my board game in Tabletop Simulator for the past 60 days now, and I recently decided to rewrite everything from scratch. I think it turned out very nicely, so we decided to make all of that open source. You can find this in the links in the description. Everything is available. You can use it to whatever extent you want. The actual implementation of Blockminers is here as well. I want to give a big shout out to Chris, Kinithin and Eldin from the TTSClub Discord server that helped answer so many of my questions. All of those links are in the description as well. Now we're going to show how to get this code, a walkthrough of how it looks when you're using this code, and then more specifically look at the 3 files that you're most likely to use. There is also this README if you prefer to read about the code, and if you found this helpful, then please consider liking this video and subscribing to this YouTube channel. I would be very grateful. To start, we need to show you how to get the code. This used to confuse me when people link open source stuff. You go to code and then you click download zip. This is going to download everything just as a zip file, and these are all of the files. I'm going to open that in VS Code, and that looks like this. Now, the breakthrough moment for me was when in TTSClub they showed me what this does. Require. I have a previous video for how to set up this Tabletop Simulator editor. There is a link for that somewhere. In Tabletop Simulator editor, this syntax of require is included. What that does is essentially taking everything inside Character Manager and then copy pasting it there. In fact, if you look inside the Tabletop Simulator, that is literally what happens. There is only one global inside Tabletop Simulator, and it's very big because everything is here. But the error handling still works. So if I do something obviously wrong within one of the files here, and then I try to run it, it still gives me an error message that the error is there exactly. So this require, it is the way to work, because it allows you to make very neat abstractions. So I'm going to show you 2 examples, and then we're going to look at the requires chart, and then we're going to go through some specific files. This is in the state manager, a big class that keeps track of the game. In this phase, we want to shuffle all the character decks. The abstractions that we have enabled through require allows us to tell the character manager to get all characters with seated players. We iterate through those, and then we ask the card manager to shuffle their respective decks. Reads like English, easy to debug, the best type of code. Another example here in the encounter card manager. Encounter cards is a type of card in Blockminers, and at the start of each phase everyone gets one of those. Some obvious arguments are passed to this function, and then we simply iterate through the players and we tell the card manager to draw from deck the amount to the color in order. And draw from deck is giving the zone of the deck and the zone of the discard pile, because in draw from deck the function to take the discard pile and shuffle it and turn it over and then keep drawing is included. So, having seen this, let's have a look at how the require chart looks. So, here's the entire thing. Every arrow here represents that the file requires from another file. I have colored base.lua, zone manager and card manager, because those are the 3 most required files, and what the rest of this chart doesn't really matter. I just wanted to show you that almost everything requires from base.lua, zone manager or card manager. Base.lua is required by almost all of the other files that we have. It does a few very basic things. 2 logs essentially, a len implementation, a has tag function which checks whether an object has a tag or not, and then this config thing. Base.lua returns config if it exists, otherwise it grabs it from global as a table and then returns it. Global is essentially the config of the project. So this is what all the other files use to get the config. Config is base.config. Config is base.config. Config is base.config, etc. That's why it's used almost everywhere. Now the second file to talk about is the zone manager. This one has several functions that I thought were implemented in some way. For example, I want to check if an object is inside a zone. You do it all the time. Find all the zones that have a certain name, get objects inside of a zone, find where a zone is, and its yaw, which is this rotation. And that's it for zone manager. The last one we want to talk about is the card manager. It requires from both base and zone. In my previous video, I went over how it's not good to have a reference to an actual deck, because if the deck breaks apart and comes back together, it now has a new GUID, but the zones remain, and this function is to find a pile in a zone. count the number of cards in a deck, set a card face down and align. It's going to put the cards in the zone face down. Next one is shuffle. There is a built-in shuffle, but this one wraps so that you can shuffle a zone instead of a deck. Add to pile does what you expect, but it's not used externally. What is used externally is add to deck and add to discard pile, because if you're adding to a deck, you want the card to be face down. If you're adding to a discard pile, you want the card to be face up. Manipulation to move a pile to a specific zone, and then my favorite, draw from a deck. And if there are not enough cards in the deck, this will actually reshuffle the discard pile to form a new deck and then attempt to draw from that if there are enough cards. If there aren't enough cards, it will draw the rest. Those are the 3 most relevant files that I think are useful, regardless of what project you're building in Tabletop Simulator, as long as it involves cards. Thanks for watching until the very end. If you found this interesting, then you can subscribe for more stuff for people who are building their own board games and for updates of the actual game, Blockminers itself. I wish you a great rest of the week. Bye bye.